Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, Chapter 2. Doc Ayaby. The first time he appeared, someone said so. I didn't know why, but that sentence suddenly popped into my head. The stopped subway train, the dark room. These details gave me a sense of déjà vu. The subway had stopped before, but it was rare. Even so, why? I remembered the familiar words from a novel, but it was ridiculous. Wasn't that impossible? At this moment, the door of car 3807 opened wide, and the electricity returned. Yu Sung-ah muttered by my side, "Doc Ayaby." My head was ringing. I trembled uneasily as the novel I knew and the reality before me began to overlap. With two small horns and wearing a small straw mat, the strange and fluffy creature was floating in the air. It was too strange to call it a fairy, too evil to call it an angel, and too tranquil to call it a demon. Thus, it was called a Doc Ayaby. I already knew the first thing the Doc Ayaby would say. Fiction and reality overlapped precisely. What is this? Augmented reality? Amidst the chattering people, I was thrown into another world alone. This was unmistakably a Doc Ayaby. The very Doc Ayaby that opened the door to tragedy for thousands of lives in waves of survival. It was Yu Sung-ah's voice that broke me out of my thoughts. It sounds vaguely like Spanish. Should I talk to it? I was taken a bit aback and asked, Do you know what this is? Do you know what that is? Will you ask it for money? No, but... It was at this time that I heard the correct pronunciation of Korean.
Does this sound good? I had a hard time because the Korean patch didn't work. Everyone, can you hear my words?
As a familiar language was being spoken, I could see people's expressions relax. The first one to step up was a big man in a suit. Hey, what are you doing right now?
Huh?
Are you filming? I have to go because I have to quickly get to an audition. He seemed to be an obscure actor since his face was unfamiliar. If I were a casting director, I would have picked him out for his brimming ambition. Unfortunately, the presence before him right now wasn't a director.
Auditions. Yes, that's right. This is an audition. There was a shortage of data. I just entered when it was monetized at 7 p.m.
What? What are you talking about?
Now, all of you, relax in your seats and listen to me. From now on, I'm going to tell you something really important.
My chest was becoming stuffy.
What? Get off the train!
Somebody call the captain. What are they doing without the cooperation of the citizens?
Mother, what is that? A cartoon?
There was no doubt about it. This was the development I knew. I didn't want to be mixed up in this, but there was no way. The people present wouldn't listen to the small and cute-looking CG creature. The only thing I could do was stop Yu Sung-ah, who was trying to get up from her seat. Yu Sung-ah, see, it's dangerous, so stay here. Huh? Yu Sung-ah's eyes widened. I spoke during a moment of bewilderment, but there was no way to explain what I understood. To be exact, I didn't have to explain.
God, you're really loud.
There was a presence with a stronger persuasive power than anybody else right now.
I told you to be quiet.
I closed my eyes slowly as the Doc Ayaby's eyes turned red. Something burst, and the subway became silent. There was a big hole in the forehead of the unknown actor who had to go to the audition. The man who had spoken several times collapsed on the spot.
This isn't a movie shoot.
There was a cracking sound once again. This time it was the person talking about the captain.
It isn't a dream. It isn't a novel either.
1, 2. Blood sprayed into the air as the heads of some people started to burst. They were all the people who had protested against the Doc Ayaby, as well as the ones who'd screamed or went wild. Those who caused the slightest fuss had a hole in their heads, and suddenly the subway became a bloodbath.
This isn't the reality that you know. Do you understand? So everyone, shut up and listen to me.
More than half of the people present here died. Blood and body bits filled the subway. And now the people didn't scream. Like primitive apes in front of a powerful predator, everyone just watched the Dokaebi with terror. I was surprised and held tightly onto the shoulder of Yu Sang-ha, who was hiccuping. This was real. The strange message which entered my ears. The Dokaebi had appeared in front of me. And the train car that had become a bloodbath.
Everyone, your lives have been so nice so far. Isn't that right?
In the special needs seating area, an elderly grandmother met the eyes of the Dokaebi.
You've been living too long for free. Isn't life too generous? You were born and paid no price for breathing, eating, pooping, and breeding. You really live in a good world.
Free? No one in this subway lived for free. The people strived to make money in order to survive, and they rode the subway on the way home from work. Yet at this moment, no one disputed the Dokaebi's words.
But now the good days are over. How can you continue living for free? If you want to enjoy happiness, it's common sense to pay a price. Isn't that right?
The gasping people couldn't answer. Then, at that time, someone carefully raised their hand. Do you want money? I wondered what type of person could speak in the middle of this situation. But surprisingly, I knew his face. Yu Sang-ha, isn't that department head Han from the finance team? Right. There was no doubt. He was a typical parachute in the company, and the number one person newcomers avoided. It was Han Mung-yo, department head of the finance team. Why was this man riding the subway? I'll give you money. Take it. Please know that I am a person like this. Department head Han pulled out his business card as people cheered him on. It was an atmosphere of a savior fighting against terrorists. How much do you want? A big one? Or two? He was offering a sum that was overly large for a department head of a subsidiary company. There was a rumor that Han Mung-yo was the youngest son of the leader of the affiliate company, and now I thought it might be true. I couldn't carry that many checks in my wallet.
You are giving me money?
That's right. The cash I have right now isn't much, but I can give you anything if you let me out of here.
Money. Good. A plant fiber that many humans mutually agree on.
The department's head's expression brightened. It was an indeed money is everything expression. How pitiful. Now, this is all I have.
It only applies in your time and space.
Huh? At the next moment, flames appeared in the air, and the checks in the department head's hands burned up. Department head Han let out a scream.
That paper had no value in the macrocosm world. If you do this one more time, I'll blow your head away.
Fear once again spread on the faces of the people present. It was easy to read what they were thinking because it was just like the novel. What the hell will happen now? Only I knew what was going to happen in the future.
The debt is really piling up during the time when you're so noisy. Well, yes, rather than explain it 100 times, isn't it quicker for you to make money yourself?
The Dokaebi's horns rose like they were antennas, and its body floated to the ceiling of the train. A moment later, a message rang out.
Hashtag B17623 channel is open. The constellations have entered.
A small window emerged in front of everyone's blank eyes.
The main scenario has arrived.
Main Scenario 1. Proof of Value. Category: Main. Difficulty: F. Clear conditions: kill one or more creatures. Time limit: 30 minutes. Compensation: 300 coins. Failure: death. The Dokaebi smiled faintly as it became transparent and disappeared into the next space.
Well then, good luck, everyone. Please show me an interesting story.
End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. Starting the paid service. People reacted differently after the Dokaebi disappeared. Some people tried to get out of the train while others called the police. Yu Sung-ah belonged to the latter group.
Please, please. The police aren't answering. What should I...
Calm down, Yu Sung-ah, see? I said, staring straight into Yu Sung-ah's unfocused eyes. Yu Sung-ah, see, have you ever played a game that the development team made? A game where the world is destroyed and only a few people survive.
Huh? What did you say?
Think about it. We're in a game right now. Yu Sung-ah silently licked her lips.
Game?
It's simple. Don't hesitate to do as I tell you. Understood?
Understood. What should I do?
Stay still. Finally, I controlled my breathing. I too needed time to properly accept all of this. 3 ways to survive in a ruined world. The descriptions that existed only in the novel were now unfolding right before my eyes. The Dokaebi stretched out its antenna, the body scattered like trash in a carriage, the bloodied office workers shaking, an old lady groaning in her seat. I watched every scene intently. It was like Neo in the Matrix, who suspected reality, observing, questioning, and then eventually being convinced. I had to admit it. I didn't know the reason why, but there were no doubts about it. Ways of survival had become a reality. Let me think. How should I survive in this new world? Come on, everybody. Everybody calm down. Just start breathing calmly. Someone stepped forward exactly 5 minutes after the Dokaebi disappeared. He was a sturdy man with short-cut hair, 1 head taller than the average height. Are you calm yet? Please, stop your actions and pay attention to me for a moment. The people sobbing or making calls stopped. Once everyone's eyes were gathered on him, the big man opened his mouth again. As you know, in the event of a national disaster, small disturbances can cause large human casualties. That's why I will now control the situation.
Wait, who are you?
A national disaster situation? What are you saying? Some people belatedly recovered and strongly resisted the word control. Then the young man pulled a government official card out of his wallet. I am currently an army lieutenant serving in the 6502 unit. Some people's faces became relieved.
A soldier! Oh, he's a soldier!
However, it was too early to be relieved. I just received a message from my unit. People gathered in front of the soldier's smartphone. I was able to read the contents without difficulty because I was near it. A level 1 national disaster situation has occurred. All troops gather quickly. I could hear gulps all around me. It was a national disaster situation. I wasn't surprised because I'd already expected this. In fact, I was surprised because of something else. Army Lieutenant Lee Hyun-sung. That Lee Hyun-sung was this man. I knew who he was. It was the first time actually seeing his face, but his name was clear in my head. He was one of the main supporting actors of Ways of Survival. Steel Sword Lee Hyun-sung. A character from the novel had appeared. Now I really had to acknowledge the situation.
Soldierin, what is happening?
I've been trying to contact my unit, but...
The Blue House! What is the Blue House doing? Please contact the president quickly!
I'm sorry, I'm just an ordinary soldier, and I don't have a hotline to the Blue House.
Then why are you taking control?
For the sake of the safety of all citizens. As Lee Hyun-sung calmly responded to the absurd questions, I realized that the descriptions in the novel weren't wrong. However, did Lee Hyun-sung originally appear like this? While thinking about these complicated questions, I had a strange hunch. As the only reader of Ways of Survival, I could assure you that Lee Hyun-sung's first appearance wasn't like this. The point at which he appeared in the novel was at the end of the first scenario. Then what was this situation? My mind became confused. I would know more clearly if I could read Ways of Survival once again.
The Prime Minister's making a speech! It really is a level 1 disaster!
Everyone turned on their smartphones at someone's cry. Yu Sung-ah turned her screen towards me.
Dr. Z, look at this.
There was no need to enter a search term. It's because it was the first result for all portal sites, was Prime Minister's speech. Of course, I already knew the contents of the video. To all my fellow citizens, unidentified terrorists are currently active in an unspecified number of areas, including Seoul. The content of the speech was simple. The current government would mobilize all means and methods to fight the terrorists, and there would never be any negotiations. Thus, everyone should confidently continue with their lives. I hadn't thought much of it when I'd read the novel, but now I was a bit shocked when hearing those words. Terrorism. Yeah, that would be more comfortable.
But where is the president? Why is the Prime Minister making the speech?
The president has already been hit.
What? Really?
I'm not sure. A neighbor comment.
Oh shit, then it's fake?
Of course I knew it wasn't a fake comment.
Ah! What?
People dropped their phones as gunshots were heard from all over. It originated from their smartphones. There was a loud sound, and blood filled the screen. After a moment, people held their breaths as they realized what had happened. Prime Minister? The Prime Minister had died. His head had exploded in real time. There were several more sounds like gunfire before the screen became quiet. The next thing that appeared on the screen was a Dokaebi.
Everyone, I've told you already. This isn't a game like terrorism.
People were at loss for words as their mouths gaped open like dumb goldfish.
Do you still not understand? This won't do. Do you still feel like this is a game?
It felt so ominous because his tone was so relaxed. Subconsciously, I made a fist using all of my strength.
According to the data, the people of this country are very good at games. So why don't I try raising the difficulty?
Beep. A huge timer appeared in the air, and at the same time, it started decreasing rapidly. The remaining time had been decreased by 10 minutes.
And there are 10 minutes remaining. If the first killing doesn't occur within the next 5 minutes, all lives in that carriage will be wiped out.
What is this? Is it a joke? Didn't you hear the message right now?
Hey, didn't you hear it? Soldier Nim, what do we do? Why isn't the police coming?
Everyone calm down and listen to me. The words of the Dokaebi caused the situation in the carriage to become so severe that Lee Hyun-sung couldn't fix it. I could feel Yu Sung-ah gripping my collar tightly. Still, I couldn't shake off the incongruity of the situation. Lee Hyun-sung, a supporting character, had already appeared. So why hadn't he emerged? According to what I knew, I should have seen him by now.
There's a murder back there!
A scene from the 3907 train car could be seen through the aisle window. The complexion of the killer in that carriage was white.
We have to keep them out. Don't let anyone in.
People held tightly to the iron door, but it wasn't necessary. The enemy wasn't there in the first place.
All types of access to the carriage will be restricted until the scenario is completed.
Along with this message, people were thrown back from the iron door like they'd hit a transparent barrier. What is this? Once again, the voice of the Dokaebi rang out.
There are some places that are quite fun, while other places haven't started yet. Okay, this is a special service. I will show you what will happen if nothing occurs in the next 5 minutes.
A giant screen appeared in the subway. The place that appeared on the screen was a classroom. Girls in their navy blue uniforms were shaking. A boy bit his fingernails and muttered,
Is that the school uniform of Daipong? Bulp, 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 bulp.
An ominous beeping sound was heard. Then the high school girls started to scream.
The given time has run out. Paid settlement will begin.
Once the announcement ended, the heads of the high school girls sitting in the front row exploded. One by one again, more and more heads exploded. The high school girls screamed and ran towards the classroom doors or windows.
Ow!
Cleaning tools broke and nails were torn out, but the doors didn't open. No one could get out.
Pew! Pew!
The heads of the high school girls continued to burst. Then a high school girl strangled her friend, who died with a groan. And after a while, the only thing that remained on the screen was the last schoolgirl looking out.
Bay 23515 channel, Daipong Girls High School. Year 2, Class B Survivor, Li Jihie.
The figure of the girl on the screen disappeared. Then the Dokaebe asked,
How is it? Interesting?
The Dokaebe spoke with a smile, but people weren't looking at the screen anymore. The people who'd made eye contact were gradually moving away from one another. Shit, what is this? Even Yu Sung-ah released her hold on me. However, she didn't move away from me. Both my hands were freed and I turned on my smartphone. Why was that guy still not showing up? There was a mixture of information that I knew from the novel and information that I didn't know. The only way to break through this situation was to read The Laws of Survival again. However, where else could I find the novel? The novel wasn't popular enough to be shared legally. No. Wait a minute. One attachment. I was stunned for a moment as I saw the notification on my smartphone. Perhaps... No. I was confused for a moment when I opened the mail attachment. And the name of the attachment sent by the author was 3 Ways to Survive in a Ruined World. .txt. End chapter. Chapter 4. Starting the Paid Service, Part 4. Laughter emerged. I had to clear my eyes and look again to see if it was a lie. The file extension was txt text. Then this person... The gift he sent me was a copy of his novel?
You have obtained an exclusive attribute. The exclusive skill slot has been activated.
I heard a message in my ear after running the file. It wasn't surprising if the world had changed into Ways of Survival. All survivors of Ways of Survival had exclusive attributes and skills. I quietly said, "Attribute window?" In my mind, I needed to know the attribute that I'd received.
You can activate the attribute window.
What? I once again tried to call out attribute window, but the result was the same. It was absurd. It was something like this. If I couldn't use the attribute window, I couldn't know what attributes or skills I have. Knowing oneself and one's enemies meant being invincible. But this was a situation where I didn't even know myself, let alone the enemy. After staring into space for a while, I gave up and decided to read the text that the author had given me.
Your reading speed has increased due to the effect of the exclusive attribute.
I didn't know what the attribute was, but it took me less than a minute to read the first act of Ways of Survival thanks to the attribute effect. I found it. The place where my finger stopped was the beginning of the work, where the main character was doing some action in the train scene. He saw people gathered at the back door of the 3707 carriage. The wheel of the tightly held lighter was cold. In this life, he absolutely couldn't make a mistake. He would use any means for his purpose. The expression of fear on the people's faces. He didn't feel any guilt. Everything was fleeting. He looked at the people with merciless eyes. After a while, his fingertips moved and fire rose, and then it all started. A chill went down my spine as I had to read the passage again and again. The reason for my discomfort was soon revealed. 3707. I reflexively checked the number of the carriage I was riding. 3807. The carriage I was on right now was behind the carriage the protagonist was riding. My hands faintly shook. Wait a minute. How many people originally survived this carriage? He looked through the blurred window at the 3807 carriage. It was already too late. It was inevitable. Anyway, only 2 people survived in that carriage. Only 2 survived? It meant that everyone died except for 2 people. And I already know who those 2 people would be. I raised my head and looked blankly at Yu Sung-ah. Maybe this woman would die. Me as well. Dr. Jesse, shouldn't we stop this? Something was starting in the place where Yu Sung-ah pointed. It was groaning. And the young man was crouching down in front of the elderly woman. Shit. I'm in a bad mood, and this old lady keeps whining and groaning. Won't you shut up? The young man was a male student who'd been leaning against the entrance. He was thin and had dyed white hair. His name was written on the badge attached to his uniform. Kim Nam-woon. It was a name that I knew. Only Lee Hyun-sung and Kim Na-woon survived in that carriage. It didn't matter. They were the only 2 I need anyway. Didn't I tell you to shut up? The agitated Kim Na-woon grabbed the grandmother's collar. The grandmother's powerless legs scattered. Kim Na-woon's palms moved through the air. Slap, slap. In normal times, somebody would run to stop this, but now nobody was moving. It wasn't long before the slaps changed to punches. Save me! Save me! I could hear the sound of hard fist hitting flesh. Some of the men around Kim Na-woon hesitated, but none of them wanted to go forward. Surprisingly, the first person to act was Han Mung-yeol. Young man treating an elder like this. However, all he got in reply was a voice mixed with scorn. Mister, do you want to die? What? You still don't understand the situation? Oh, what bullshit is this brat saying? Kim Na-woon only laughed at the cursing Han Mung-yeol. He pointed to the ceiling of the subway carriage with his finger. Can't you see that? On the ceiling, a holographic screen was playing. Spare me! Ah! Die, die! It wasn't just train carriages or Daepong High School. It was a live video of people dying all over the country. Kim Na-woon continued to speak. You still don't understand? The army isn't coming to rescue us, and somebody must die. What are you saying? We have to choose a person to die. Han Mung-yeol was unable to answer. The hands on his exposed wrist were standing up. Of course, I know what you're thinking. You have to kill your fellow countrymen to live. It's something only the sons of bitches will do. But you know, it is a force beyond our control. Beyond our control. We'll die if we don't kill. Who'll blame us? Are you gonna die in the end because of your morals? Think carefully. The world you've known so far has just ended. Han Mung-yeol's shoulders trembled, and it wasn't only Han Mung-yeol. Cracks were showing in people's eyes. It's a scene where the vague morality was collapsing. Kim Na-woon put a wedge into that crack. A new world requires new laws. Kim Na-woon, a young man who adapted to the world of ways of survival the fastest. Kim Na-woon turned around and resumed punching the grandmother. And this time, nobody stopped him. Han Mung-yeol, the other man, even Lee Hyun-sung. The soldier's fists were trembling as he stared into the air with a lost expression. Maybe he'd also made a decision. It is hard to kill. Are you doing this just to watch? Do you want to fall behind? People trembled at Kim Na-woon's words. Their facial expressions were as easy to read as the sentences in a cheap novel. If there's no killing in 5 minutes, everyone in the carriage will die. People's eyes were changing. If the grandmother doesn't die, we will die in 5 minutes. The most primitive eyes that a living creature could have. Yes. This bastard's right. If we don't do this, everyone will die. The first man rushed towards Kim Nam-woon. He kicked at the old lady who'd collapsed and was curled up. Have you forgotten? Someone must die so we can live!
Fuck, I don't know.
The people standing aloof from the grandmother. The cowardly men who'd been lingering. The university student filming this with their phone. The mother of the child and Han Mun-yo. They all lynched the grandmother, aiming for her death. Die! Die quickly! They were like guards cooperating for the death penalty. Like the guards pulling the lever at the same time, so they couldn't tell who killed the prisoner. These people passively kicked and punched the grandmother. And I was watching all of this. I was standing by, like someone watching what happened in another world. The grandmother whose name I didn't know was someone who wasn't meant to live. In the original scenario, the grandmother died, so it wasn't a sin to observe that death. At that moment, Yu Sung-ah got up. You'll be killed! I reflexively grabbed her. I told you not to move. The arm I was holding was shaking. Yu Sung-ah made tight fists in an attempt to hide her trembling. I know! Yu Sung-ah, see, you will die if you go now. Yu Sung-ah's eyes were shaking with fear. Even so, I realized it. Despite the genre of the story changing, some people still shone brightly. Yu Sung-ah, see, sit down. However, the person who could change this story wasn't Yu Sung-ah, and Yu Sung-ah wasn't the protagonist of this world. But do as I say just this once. I won't interfere after that. After forcibly pulling Yu Sung-ah back into her seat, I took a deep breath and turned around. I straightened my back and shook as I breathed out. I slowly loosened my ankles and wrists. In fact, it was a little early to come forward. This wasn't my plan originally. Doc Jussie? I didn't answer her call as I looked at the people intent on insulting the grandmother. I wasn't still because I was afraid, or Kim Na-woon and the people, nor did I consent to their inhumanity. I was just waiting. It was for the moment I had to move. Thus, quang! Right now. What? An explosion filled my ears and the train shook. People cried out. Smoke rose from the front right corner of this carriage. It had started. He had moved. I kicked off from the ground as hard as I could with my right foot. I passed by the people screaming and sitting down towards the grandmother. What? Ah! Kim Na-woon collided with me and fell to the ground with a scream. At first glance, it seemed like he was saving the grandmother, but that wasn't what I was aiming for. Where was it? I looked around quickly. Somebody had fallen towards the grandmother due to the explosion. It was a kid crying in the middle of this hell. The kid who was holding the insect collecting net before. Excuse me a moment. I took the net from the child. Once I put my hand into the net, the chitin of a grasshopper reached my fingers. I took one out and placed it in the kid's hand, and then I turned towards the people. Everybody stop! You can't live if you kill the grandmother. My voice was surprisingly clear due to the temporary silence after the explosion. One by one, people started looking at me. Let's say you killed the grandmother. What next? Their surprised faces looked good. Let me tell you a bit more. The grandmother's death will be recognized for what the Dokkaebi calls the first murder, and some time will be bought. Then what next? If what the Dokkaebi says is true, you each have to kill one thing. So who will you kill after the grandmother? Will you kill the person next to you? The person who thought about something retreated from each other. Horror was in their eyes. In fact, everyone knew. The grandmother was just the beginning. Kim Na-woon noticed the shaky atmosphere. Haha, what are you all worried about? Kill him next. Cowards. Don't worry about your turn in advance. The odds are all equal. I figured that Kim Na-woon would say something like this, so I cut him off with a slight wave of my hand. There's no need to gamble like that. There is a way for you to survive, even if you don't become a killer. What? What is it? Kim Na-woon's expression distorted. Have you forgotten? The scenario kill condition wasn't to kill a person. Most people were still puzzled, but a few noticed something. Kill one or more living things. That's right. From the beginning, the word person was never specified in the contents of the scenario. Kill one or more living things. In other words, any life was possible. A quick-witted person shouted at the collection net in my hand. Insects! Insects! The grasshoppers were jumping in the collection net. People's eyes were shining, and I nodded. That's right. The insects. I put my hand into the net and took out a grasshopper. It was a chubby one that I saw earlier. Give that to me, quickly! Only one, I just need one. I stepped back slowly as I looked at the approaching people. I was now facing the explosive madness that tried to kill the grandmother. Yet, a smile emerged. Why? Even in this breathtaking tension, why was my heart beating with joy? Would you like it? I waved the net like a trainer provoking an animal. Several impatient people leapt towards me. Then catch them! I smashed the grasshopper in my hand. You have achieved the first kill achievement. 100 coins have been earned as additional compensation. At the same time, I threw the net in my other hand as hard as possible. It was towards the opposite side of the area where the grandmother and the crowd were gathered. This is crazy! The insects were released and jumped as hard as they could for freedom. End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5. Starting the paid service, Part 5. People panicked as they saw the insects running around the carriage. Hey, why would you do such a thing? Some people were staring blankly, the quick-witted pushed towards me. You son of a bitch! You better find them soon. There are only 3 minutes left. These words were a signal as people started to look everywhere among the subway seats like beasts who had lost their minds. I got it! Ah! The joy of those fortuitous enough to obtain an insect, as well as the malicious attacks on them, caused the carriage to become chaotic. Hey, why did you do that? Couldn't you have just given them the insects? Looking back, I saw Kim Na-moon raising his body. I responded cautiously to Kim Na-moon, who was stretching his neck. There are 12 people remaining. Huh? And there are 3 insects left in the collecting net. Kim Na-moon frowned for a moment before smiling broadly. 12-3. Yeah, not all of them can survive anyway. So you threw that thing? Yes. Don't make me laugh. A person with common sense wouldn't do such a thing for that reason. Kim Na-moon's smile widened. Tell me honestly, you just wanted to see this scene, didn't you? I recalled the Kim Na-moon that I knew from Ways of Survival. At this moment, I heard a message in my ears. Exclusive skill. Character list is activated. Next, a window opened in front of my eyes. I still didn't know exactly what my attribute was, but I looked at the window in front of me. Character information. Name, Kim Na-moon. Age, 19. Constellation support, none. Brackets, 2 constellations are currently showing interest in this person. Private attribute, Chunibyo. Brackets, general. Exclusive skills, unusual adaptability, level 3. Knife fighting, level 1. Blackening, level 1. Overall stats, stamina, level 3. Strength, level 4. Agility, level 6. Magic power, level 4. Overall rating, a Chunibyo who was blackened by a special occasion. It is recommended that you don't get involved with him. Most of the Chunibyo that appeared in Ways of Survival committed seppuku before they could endure the nightmare that had become real. However, the Chunibyo before me, Kim Na-moon, was different. He was the delusion demon, Kim Na-moon. The young man who later became known by this nickname wasn't an ordinary Chuni. This young man had been waiting for the destruction of the world for a long time and adapted to this world at an unusual speed. Team up with me.
How about it?
That young man was now making an offer to me.
The character Kim Na-moon has a favorable impression of you. Your understanding of the character Kim Na-moon has increased.
My immediate survival was guaranteed if I held hands with Kim Na-moon. If I hadn't read Ways of Survival, my choice might have been a little different. I'm sorry, but I'd like to be alone.
Really?
Well, it is regrettable. Kim Na-moon licked his lips lightly and stood close to me.
Then can you step aside? I have something to do with the old lady behind you.
Hearing his words, I looked back to see that the bleeding, collapsed grandmother was barely breathing. What do you want?
Do you have to ask?
You aren't catching the insects? Insects? Why would I catch that? Kim Na-moon laughed. I've already caught an insect in front of me. I could feel Kim Na-moon's murderous spirit. The character that had only existed in the novel was facing me with vivid madness. And therefore, I felt a little bit in awe. Kim Na-moon was really the person I'd imagined. The character Kim Na-moon has a slight decrease in favorability.
What are you looking at? Aren't you going to move aside quickly?
It is tough.
What?
I won't move aside.
You're not going to imitate the Apostle of Justice? Do you have multiple personalities?
I didn't answer. A dark shadow slowly crept onto Kim Na-moon's face, and his shining eyes were becoming cold.
No. Wait a minute. Did you throw that net over there to do this from the beginning? Really? You want to save the grandmother? Amazing, really amazing. No? Yes?
I still didn't answer. As I looked closely at this guy, old memories resurfaced.
Turns out you're the type of person I hate the most. All old bastards are the same.
They were memories of all the times I've been frustrated by this brat during Ways of Survival.
The character Kim Na-moon despises you.
What did you say? I considered the timing and lowered my head, avoiding the fist that flew before the words were even over.
Oh, not bad.
Despite knowing it was coming, I felt a sense of heat from above my head. It wasn't an ordinary punch. Blackening, level 1. A dark aura rose from Kim Na-moon's whole body. This was the exclusive skill of the Chunibyo attribute. It was rare to release a skill before the end of the first scenario, but Kim Na-moon was already showing a skill. There was a reason why the main character had recruited him, despite his psychopathic nature. Pionk! After he hit it, my right shoulder spasmed. There was no way to win if I kept fighting this way. Should I use that now? I was calculating the time when I heard a message.
Your understanding of the character Kim Na-moon has increased. You are close to the conditions of use for the exclusive skill Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, level 1.
Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint? What was that?
The condition of use for the exclusive skill Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, level 1 has been reached.
Kim Na-moon's fist missed me and struck the ground.
Oh, what? Haven't I become stronger?
A faint fist mark was left on the ground. Kim Na-moon was realizing his current strength little by little. Quang, quang, quang. The fist that could break a bone with a single blow kept hitting the ground. Kim Na-moon was frustrated and couldn't control his temper.
Why can't I hit you?
Of course he couldn't hit me. It was all thanks to my second skill.
Exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, level 1, has been activated.
As soon as the skill was activated, I was able to observe Kim Na-moon's attack direction like I was reading his inner thoughts. For example, like this. Right side, I quickly moved away from the direction of the attack. Right eye, then I quickly bent down and avoided the flying fist.
You're really good at not being hit.
It was unreasonable to counterattack because I was poor at sports, but I could at least avoid most of the attacks. Left thigh. This was enough to endure it. The important thing was to buy time. I avoided Kim Nam-woon's first and pointed at the clock in the air. There are 2 minutes left, kid. The distressed Kim Nam-woon alternated between look at me and the grandmother. Damn it! At the moment of choice, Kim Nam-woon's gaze was fixed on the grandmother's side. I was forced to grab the grandmother and roll away. If the grandmother died, Kim Nam-woon would clear the scenario. No matter what, I absolutely couldn't send this guy onto the next scenario.
I knew you would move like that.
As Kim Nam-woon took something out of his bag, I had an ominous feeling. A blade shone in the fluorescent light. It was a portable MacGyver knife. I'd forgotten. This person was a die-hard military otaku. There was a link between the technical skill light knife fighting and the strengthening skill blackening. The direction that the blade was pointing at was obvious. Heart. It was an attack that couldn't be avoided even if I knew the direction. So I made a quick judgment. If I couldn't avoid the attack, it was better to be hit somewhere with minimal damage if possible. The blade narrowly missed my heart and made a deep cut on my shoulder. And it hurt. It really hurt. There was a searing pain in my skin. My vision shook and it felt like death was approaching.
Now die!
The time remaining to the end of the scenario was 1 minute and 30 seconds. I glanced towards the grandmother. I was sorry for the grandmother, but now I really had to use that. Chungil High School 2nd year, Kim Nam-woon. I have a question for you.
What?
Do you think an insect egg is a living thing? I took out the body of the grasshopper I'd killed earlier from my pocket. The plump egg sac was clearly abundant. There was a sound of something popping, and then something fluid spilled out. The disgusting feeling spread over my hand as I heard a message.
You have killed a living thing. 100 coins have been earned as additional compensation. You have killed a living thing. 100 coins have been earned as additional compensation.
Multiple messages bombarded my ears. Kim Nam-woon frowned.
Insect egg? What are you sullenly saying? Are you trying to waste time?
I guess so. How would I know something like that? Was I sleeping in biology class? Kim Nam-woon looked at my bloody shoulder and laughed happily.
But there is one thing I know for sure. Do you know what it is?
What is it?
You will die right now.
Kim Nam-woon moved his Swiss knife before I could answer. It was an attack that was hard to avoid.
A large number of coins have been acquired. Do you want to check the coin usage tips?
I emitted the explanation that entered my ears. There was no need to listen when I already knew the contents. No, it is you who will die. I spat out while inwardly muttering something else.
2,700 coins. 2,700 coins have been invested into stamina. Stamina level 1. Stamina level 10. Your stamina level has increased dramatically. The durability of your body has greatly increased.
Kim Nam-woon's knife penetrated toward my heart. To be exact, it looked like it was penetrating, but my skin was like solid rock, and the only thing that remained on it was a scratch. Kim Nam-woon's eyes showed that he was astonished. How? I'll tell you the correct answer to my question. The answer is, an egg is a living thing.
What?
And in spawning season, grasshoppers lay more than 100 eggs at a time. Egg, living thing, 100. Unfortunately, the time left to understand the meaning of the information was too short for the schoolboy with a bad brain.
What are you saying?
It doesn't matter if you don't understand. There's 1 minute left. Now fear appeared on Kim Nam-woon's face.
Die!
The knife moved towards my neck. I didn't even bother defending against the attack. Was it because the area was more vulnerable than the chest? The wound was a little deeper than before, but it still didn't hurt much. Kim Na-woon. Behind Kim Na-woon, there were people still crawling and looking for insects, as well as those who were willing to hurt each other for their own survival. You're right. I am the same type of human as you. Maybe I could have saved some of those people.
Shit, why would you die? Why would you just die?
The knife kept leaving only scratches. Blood flowed from the blade. Blood flowed, but the blade couldn't reach under the skin. There were 30 seconds left when Kim Na-woon opened his mouth. He dropped the knife and knelt before me. Save me! 25 seconds. Save me, please, help me! Why should I? 20 seconds. People's lives are important, that's obvious! That's the rule of the old world. It's just as you said. A new world requires new laws. 10 seconds. I don't want to die! 5 seconds. Kim Nam-woon ran at me with a loud scream and aimed for my eye. The moment that the knife tried to dig at my retina. The given time has run out. There was a loud sound, and Kim Nam-woon's head exploded. Paid settlement will now begin. Beginning with Kim Nam-woon, people's heads started to exploding everywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4. The bursting heads were like fireworks announcing a new era. I watched the scene with a bit of joy, a bit of guilt, and a mysterious feeling. Why? Why was I so calm at the sight in front of me? It was like I was looking at a novel. You have killed 124 living things. Kill history. 1 grasshopper. 123 grasshopper eggs. You have killed non-resistant living things, so the number of coins you have acquired is reduced by half. 6,200 coins have been acquired. The number of coins used for the stat level up is automatically subtracted. You have a total of 3,500 coins. The mass murderer achievement has been gained through excessive killing. My face could be seen on the darkened window of the carriage. It was a face I'd never seen before, despite looking into the mirror countless times in my life. I wiped at the blood on my cheeks. The blood wasn't erased. It turned out to be blood on the window. There was a lurching feeling, and the train started to move again. It made the familiar train noise. Soon, light flooded in, and darkness was lifted from the windows. We'd arrived at the surface ground section of Line 3, between Apgujeong and Oksu. Outside the window, the Han River and Seoul were revealed. Someone let out a moan. It was a moan which contained deep relief that they survived. However, it didn't take long for the meaning of that moan to change. The landscape outside the window was no longer the Seoul that they knew. Smoke and dust rose from the ruined city. The Han River Bridge had collapsed. The Han River itself was red with the bodies of soldiers, while among the fallen buildings, a monster was trampling on a K-1 tank like it was a toy. Main Scenario 1. Proof of value has ended. 300 coins have been acquired as a basic clearance reward. 100 coins have been reduced for the channel usage fee. Additional compensation settlement will begin. One world was destroyed, and a new world was born. And I was the only reader who knew the ending of this world. Chapter 6 will continue in the next installment. Night night.